To you.
Yes, absolutely.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. This is really a Global Chamber Los Angeles focused meetup, Southern California, and we've got a really important conversation from the SBA today, along with having a roundtable. This is part of a program that we do once a month. It's a virtual way of connecting. We were earlier before the recording started talking about traffic. And if you pick, some place in LA to meet in person, no matter where it is, it's not going to be good for most people. And it's going to take time to drive. And so we do a lot of virtual events to be able to connect up members just so you can jump in and jump out and not have to worry about parking and driving, et cetera. Maybe just as important or more important with Global Chamber, because we're in hundreds of cities, 525 plus cities, and we're finally actually calculating it. It's probably close to 600. That allows people from around the world to connect in and find out what's going on in LA or be part of what's going on here, and vice versa. We can join from LA other places and learn more. So our goal at Global Chamber is to connect people with the right resources to grow their business, the right information, and everything to be able, because it takes a village, especially today, especially we're taking a complicated process called growing your business globally and changing the rules almost on a daily basis. And so that means we have to stay in touch with people like Dr. Sarita Jackson, who's an expert on trade. And God bless her, she's keeping up on all of the different tariff situations and all the changes. And I honestly, I couldn't do it. I couldn't mentally do it. So you have amazing resilience to be able to not only keep up, but then be able to shift and help people in various different circumstances. Dr. Sarita Jackson, beyond being an expert and being the founder and president of her own company, GRIT, which really, I think, started mainly as market research, but because she's so well-rounded, she really helps all the way through the process of exporting and importing for companies. And so thank you so much for your leadership on helping people be more successful. And thank you also for being the advisory board chair for Global Chamber Los Angeles. It's been really fun to work with you, not the least of which was visiting the Japanese consulate a week or two ago and with the Brian Swords Award, which was a lot of fun. We met some really great people. So without further ado, Dr. Sarita Jackson will lead us through this program, which we will finish at the top of the hour. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Doug. And thank you to everyone that's on today's call, this very important session. And so you mentioned the ceremony with the Consul General of Japan for the conferment ceremony for Brian Swords. And that was on April 2nd. And I will never forget. I will never forget what was going on that particular day, or, was what is going to happen with regard to the tariffs. And that by the time I got back home, it was just WhatsApp messages, email messages, phone calls on, okay, what is going on, both from companies overseas as well as US companies here, just trying to understand, okay, what does this mean for my business? And so, yeah, as Doug was mentioning, that's a lot of, I'm more research focused, but a lot of what has been going on, just really following the policies and then translating that to what that means for companies. And so having said that, what I want to do is just give kind of a brief overview of where we are when it comes to international trade, not just focusing on, what are the tariffs and things like that, but what are we seeing? What can we expect for 2025? Just give that update, because after that, I want to transition into our guest speaker, Jeff Hildebrand, and turn it over to him so that we can focus on, all right, now that we know what's going on, what are the resources that are available for small businesses, particularly in the manufacturing sector, and then open this up for a discussion as to what this means for us as business owners, as well as for our clients. So with the updates, I just saw with the World Trade Organization, just where are we going with 2025 and global trade. Originally, the World Trade Organization had expected that this year we would see 2.7% growth in international trade. But with all of these changes now, it has dropped down to only 0.2%. And then that can, as things continue, be even more dramatic in terms of the decline. With North America being the hardest hit, with our exports declining by 12.6% and imports dropping by 9.6%. Now, one of the things I also do, and even with manufacturing, a lot of your manufacturing supported by the services sector, I do a lot of work with service providers, professional service providers. And it was really interesting seeing what just came down the pipeline today with these WTO estimates when it comes to trade and services. And when we're talking about services, transportation, tourism, business support, that there will still be growth in trade and services because they're not affected by the tariffs directly, but that growth, the figure is not as high as originally presented. So now we're just looking at a 4% growth in 2025 for trade and services. And that's because of the weaker trade in goods. And then countries throughout Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean that rely on these services, such as tourism, they're going to be affected. Now, having said that, now let's transition to the manufacturing and this Made in America Manufacturing Initiative that was announced in March by the new administrator of the Small Business Administration. And this is an opportunity to learn about the resources that are available. So we're not just panicking, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? But really know and get the information, accurate information that, yes, there are resources available. What are those resources and how do we or our clients access those resources? So I would like to introduce our guest speaker today, Jeff Hildebrandt, who is with the Live Oak Bank, which is a nationwide SBA designated preferred lender. He's a vice president, SBA commercial lender. And I also want to take the time to thank James Huang, who is on our LA advisory board. He's a part of our executive team with the Global Chamber LA Advisory Board. And so at our April 1st meeting, we were talking about this, how to make these monthly meetups where it is practical. And normally we do talk about opportunities, but to bring in additional insight with regard to the opportunities that are available. So that's where our guest speaker, Jeff Hildebrandt, will now share those resources. And then once he is done with his presentation, we can open it up for a discussion and take it from there. So Jeff, I turn the virtual floor over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarita. I appreciate those, that great introduction. And like I said, your organization, you're great with, getting all this organized like this. But yeah, my name is Jeff Hildebrandt with Live Oak Bank. A pleasure to be here. And if you don't mind, I want to share my PowerPoint screen so we can just kind of follow along as we talk about some of the ideas that Sarita just mentioned. One of the biggest ones is the lot of government policy changes, as everybody has seen what's happening out there. Many agencies have been updated and for the good and bad, but now they're really working on updating the SBA, the Small Business Administration. So we're going to talk about a lot of these policies changes. We're going to talk about some of the new loan program opportunities that have come out of this. And we're also going to get into that manufacturing initiative, because if you're in manufacturing or you're thinking about manufacturing, this is a great time between the support that we'll talk about that's coming from the government and also the financing that's available for you to expand your manufacturing business, or if you work with manufacturers, or if you're not in manufacturing, to start doing that. And I'm going to change this around. Can everybody see that okay? Excellent. So my little presentation here, this is just going to be, 30, 40 minutes. It's a small group, so we'll just keep it, casual. But, basically, what's happening in 2025. And this is happening on a daily basis. Literally, just the Federal Reserve met yesterday, and they kept the rate stable. So we're going to bring you up to date all the way until April 16th, literally. But there's a lot of policy updates, and we're going to talk about the financing, what's available through the Small Business Administration. And you mentioned that right there, Sarita. And this is what we're talking about for business owners out there right now: how to grow your business, how to increase your income. And look, I mean, we're all for-profit businesses for the most part. So, welcome to capitalism, right? It's about growth and income in the end. So, we're going to give you some financing strategies around what's happening with all these policy changes to help you do that. Any questions there? There's my cell phone number. So, Sarita, I finally made it to the 1% club. I'm in the 1%. I'm one of the 1% of the bankers that actually answers their phone. So if you have a question, just reach out. I actually answer my phone as a banker. There's no voicemail trees here. My email address, really easy to get a hold of me. All this is copyright notice. A lot of this information is Live Oak Bank proprietary information. A lot of it's SBA. Obviously, that's public information. Training agenda, like I said, well, I'll just bring you up to date about a Live Oak Bank. What we're doing out there is one of the largest SB lenders in the country. New qualifying guidelines, and if you think about these new qualifying guidelines, it's kind of a football field or a soccer field, right? There's 100 yards to get down the field and score a touchdown or a goal, as long as you stay within the chalk lines, right? So those chalk lines are constantly changing for the SB, but as long as you stay within the chalk lines, there's a lot of ways to have a different strategy to get down the field and get funding for your business. We talked about, increase your income and have some growth opportunities out there. So, the main thing we're going to talk about is just, 4 or 5 different real life examples of business acquisition financing. That can help you increase your profits, eliminate your rent. Now with the new policy changes, if you're a business owner or you're working with business owners, there's a program out there called the Building Purchase Subsidy Program now, where it's literally 100% financing to buy your own building, eliminate your rent, and just keep your cash for operations. So that's helping a lot of businesses out there. A lot of new changes around commercial debt refinance. So if you're a business or you work with businesses that have commercial debt, most of that with all these new changes can be refinanced into longer terms and lower payments. So that's a lot of these policy changes. Like I said, there's good policy changes, there's bad ones, but we deal with what it is. Increased net income, partner buyout financing. Before that was not allowed under the SBA program, but now with the recent policy changes, now, if you can't buy the entire business, now you can buy a portion of the business if the seller wants to stay around for a period of time, and that's a way to increase your income. And a new program that just came out at the end of last year, and really around all these policy updates, is how do you pay for all these tariffs? Well, there's a new $500,000 express working capital loan program, easier qualifying, less paperwork. So there are financing programs in place to help you capture some of these increased expenses that may be coming. Why Live Oak Bank? Well, I mean, one thing is Sarita mentioned, we are a preferred lending provider. So what that gives us the opportunity to do is, I'm based in Los Angeles, California, downtown LA. The bank is headquartered out in Wilmington, North Carolina. And literally it was started back in 2008 with no loans. And in 2018, I think 17 or 18, we became the largest SBA lender in the country. So we know how to grow businesses, right? So last year we did literally 1.9 billion of SBA loans. That's no joke. That's money in the hands of business owners out there. And you can, if you guys just go to SBA Lender Performance Report, just Google this information. You can find this, this webpage link, but you can find, 7A programs for many different years. You can look at the 2025 numbers, but here's what the 24 number looked like. So this is working out there. 70,000 businesses were helped last year with the SBA loan program, and we're just talking about the 7A, not even including the 504. This is 31 billion of funding was provided to business owners. Now this is on track right now for 25 to be closer to 35 billion. So this is really a program that's working. It's been around since the 1950s, 1953. It came in with the Small Business Act. So it's been used during good times, been used during bad times. And when you go to this page, lender performance report, this will give you all the lenders that whether they've done 2 billion or 1.9 billion like Live Oak Bank did last year, all the way down to just one loan for 100,000. This gives you access to every lender in the country to take a look at. So what do we do? I mean, we help you, we're a bank, right? So what's our business model? Lend money, get it paid back, just like every business has a business model. But in the end, we have financing strategies to help you buy business. So if you're not in business and you want to buy business, you can buy business up to $5 million using the 7A loan program. We'll talk about that. You can build. If you're an existing business owner, we have an entire construction team. A lot of banks don't have it anymore, but we do ground up construction, renovations. So if you want to buy a piece of land and build your own building, we can finance that all the way up to 15 million. So that's coming called under a 504 loan program that we'll talk about, and we can help you expand your existing business. If you are in business right now, you can expand it with, like I said, either the debt refinance, get working capital, either under the standard 7A program or the or that working capital express program up to 500,000. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a vice president. I've been with this bank for almost 6 years now, and it's really great. I mean, clawing and fighting and reaching all the way to the top lender in the country. Happy to be here. And like I said, what this gives me the opportunity to do is really to help businesses in all 50 states. So with that preferred lending provider status and our reach, we're able to help you whether you're in New York, California, Los Angeles, where we're all kind of based. It doesn't make any difference. We're all 50 states and the territories. 20 years of worth of lending experience. I got in the SBA business. I was previously I was a commercial loan broker on my own, had my own business with a partner. That all collapsed in 2008, if you remember what happened with there. And then I started working for banks in 2009, and I love it. I love working on the bank side because it's direct access to the money, and we control the program and the underwriting requirements to help you find a solution for your needs. I also teach a class here in California called SBA Finance for Commercial and Business Opportunities. This I teach the commercial real estate agents or any licensed agent in the country. This is good for 3 hours worth of continuing education, and I have to renew this every 2 years. So I'm state approved until 2026. So there's my stamp of approval. Like I said, just in summary, these are the programs that are out there right now that you can access for yourself, access for your customers. So the basic SB 7A loan program nowadays goes all the way up to 5 million. And like I said, this could be for real estate-based businesses or if you're just leasing a space. So it doesn't have to be real estate-based. So it could be just a business that's leasing a space somewhere, or if you're in a building, or if you want to, like I said, you want to stop renting and buy a building, you can do that with a 7A loan. This SBA 504 loan program, we'll talk a little bit about that. This is for the building only. So if you need working capital, if you want to buy a business, things like that, that'll be under the 7A program. But if you are buying a building or want to construct a building, we can look at either of those programs. We are a bank, FDIC bank, so we can do conventional bank loans all the way up to 20 million. And then, like I said, the brand new program out there I think this only came out at the end of last year, but we've already funded literally close, over $100 million worth of these $500,000 working capital programs. So the bank is actively funding on these things. So if you do need working capital for your business or know a business that needs working capital, this is a great program because we get minimal documentation like 23 and 24 tax return. You fill in a couple of forms. We send it to the processing team. Somebody enters it into this SBA online underwriting system, literally, and we get the approval or decline right there. So this is not a long, drawn-out process, maybe 3 to 4 weeks to funding from the time of application. So these get in and get out very quickly. If you don't have this, you can email me. I'll bring up my email at the end here. This is an SBA loan summary chart. So this is really a 2-page document that shows all the, so when we talk about an SBA loan, there's only about 12 different types of SBA loans available. There's the 7A loan program, the Express Working Capital program, Community Advantage programs. Those are available from 50,000 up to 350. And those are done by nonprofit SBA lenders, not banks, but that's available out there for folks. Pelson's on the call, so we have international trade programs and we fund these. And this is for companies who are exporting or you want to start exporting your product or service. So it's going to be something from the United States to another country. And there's that 504 loan program for the real estate purchases or real estate construction needs. The great opportunity about this program and one of the key points is this program you can buy a building with as little as 10% down payment, and the rate is locked in for 25 years, fixed rate at right around 6.5% right now, which is well below market. And there's no commercial bank loan or real estate loan where you could buy your own building with just 10% down payment and get a 6.5% rate. So that is a great program. And this is when we're talking about the manufacturing initiative, this is one of the programs they're really pushing out there to help manufacturers. Or if you want to buy manufacturing business, great time to do it. The bank can fund most businesses, but we also have about 30 different verticals that we have specialized underwriting teams for. So, like for example, we have a restoration and remediation, a residential assisted living facility, government contracting teams. So all this team does is work with businesses that have government contracts, and they have deep experience in approving and funding loans in all these different verticals. So if you are in one of these businesses or want to get into one of these businesses, much easier qualifying because the bank has a ton of experience in lending literally billions of dollars across these verticals. So it's much more flexible, common sense underwriting, if you will. Change is the only constant. I think came from like some Greek philosopher, but I think Louis Pasteur was credited with saying this, right? Because he came up with milk pasteurization, right? Well, if milk changes, it's bad for you, right? So how can we fix it? So hey, how about a pasteurization process? Wow, so he used it in his science because he understood that change is the only constant. Hey, we're dealing with the government. Change is the only constant, and life is the only constant, right? So you got to be flexible, know how to deal with change. I have an 18-year-old daughter graduating from high school this year. I've taught her from this day one, you got to know how to be flexible and handle change. I mean, I would say that's probably the number one. But number two is don't leave valuables in your vehicle. I've had to teach her that one too. So change is the only constant. Watch out for yourself. And like I said, the change that we're talking about are all these different policy updates. So the government has changing the SBA, but they also have control over the interest rates, right? So literally just yesterday, the Federal Reserve met, and at their meeting, they kept the funds rate stable, which means interest rates are going to be stable until the next meeting. Now, if you want to get on all the Federal Reserve press releases, this is public information. Just take a look at this, and if you email me, I'm going to send you the PowerPoint PDF version of this, so you have this for reference. But this is great to get on their press releases because you'll be in the know, like we are. Like I said, this just happened yesterday. Kept the federal funds rate stable. Why does that affect SBA rates? Because SBA 7A loan rates are based on the prime rate. So the calculation for an SBA 7A loan is real simple. It's the prime rate plus a maximum margin of 3%. That's a calculation for almost all SBA 7A loans in the country. So if you do that math, 7.5 plus 3% is 10.5% on the high side. Depending on the strength of the application and the applicant, maybe the margin is only 1%. So that would give you a rate range on the 7A loan between 8.5 and 10.5. Now you can see what's happened with the prime rate. Now, most of you are in business in 2022. The rate was at 3.5%, if you recall. So real low. I mean, it was fantastic for a number of years. You can see that from 2020. Well, 2020 was start of COVID. You can see they just dropped it immediately. So from the start of COVID, it was at 3.5% all the way until 2022 when they started increasing it. They drove it all the way up to 8.5%. Now they've been backing it off since October of 2024. Last year, they started decreasing it 0.25%, down 0.5%, down 0.25%. So it's gone from 8.5 to 7.5. So we're in a stable to a decreasing rate environment, which is a good thing for borrowing money, especially. So SBA policy notice number 1. So another change here that the government has corrected is U.S. citizenship, or it's called a lawful permanent resident. So before there was some different changes in there, but with the new administration gives how they want this policy, this program to run. They give it to the SBA, and the SBA says Mr. Banker, and this applies to all banks, here's the policy you have to deal with now. So for any applicant, the business has to be owned 100% by a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident, which is a permanent resident with a green card. Now, if the business wants to apply for the loan and they do have a foreign national as part of the ownership, then that foreign national can come off, but then there's a 6-month waiting period. So there's a strategy around that. So if you can't qualify right now because of the citizenship or legal permanent resident status of one of the business owners, then you would just restructure it and then apply at the end of the year. So that would be a 6-month waiting period on that. And you can just look all the SBA policy notices up. They're all public information. SBA.gov is the web, is their web page. Another one. Before, they had no fees for loans up to 1 million. Now for loans, any SBA loan now, for loans greater than 150, the guarantee fee is 2% of the guaranteed portion. For loans between 150 and 700,000, 3%, and then 700,000 up to 5 million, which is the maximum, it's 3.5%. And for loans over 1 million, the fee was always there, so they just added in more fees for the lower loans. But you don't have to pay this out of pocket to the government. You don't have to write a check to the SBA. It's just added into the closing costs, and I'll show you what that looks like. Another notice: if you are buying a building, you have to get a commercial real estate appraisal. The bank orders all those, but we also have to get something called an environmental report done. So if you're buying, if you ever bought a home, there's no environmental report on home purchase, but when you buy a commercial building, those are required. Now, typically, you have to get a phase 1 or phase 2. These are expensive, a lot of work these environmental companies do. But nowadays, for the 7A loan, and I think even on the 504 loan with these new changes, we can just get a desktop analysis done. So we contact our environmental report company, much less expensive, much more quicker, and that's okay now. It's just called a desktop review. So that helps. So some more restriction in there, but that has helped with the speeding things up. Made in America Manufacturing Initiative, what MMA, right, or MMI, right? You could Made in America Manufacturing Initiative, and we totally support manufacturing. And if I said, what am I going to be working on for the next year and a half or so, is just promoting this program, because the government wants it. We're on the right side of the administration. The financing is available, so you can see here, and there's a bunch of them. So just Google Made in American Manufacturing Initiative. I have the policy notice, so if you wanted, you can just email me. I'll get that over to you. But reduce barriers to the 504 loan program. This is accessing up to $15 million to buy the building, buy equipment, construct the building. We can do that in conjunction with a 7A loan if you want to buy the business and the building. So if you are a manufacturer, you want to expand, you want to get in the manufacturing business, between that 7A and 504 program, you're able to buy a manufacturing business and the building that it comes with. And the 7A Working Capital Pilot Program, like I said, that's also available up to $500,000 for manufacturers, and a bunch of other things. We're not involved with these, but promote a skilled manufacturing workforce, agencies, trade schools, a lot of things. So I mean, this is just a 4 or 5 bullet points on that, but I would say if you want to be on the right side of these policy changes, manufacturing. It's great. They also changed the SBA underwriting manual. So they come out with SBA policy notices, but they also update the guidelines that the banks have to use to fund loans. So this is another great one. Typically, if you're buying a business or buying a building, you need to come in with at least 10% down payment, right? So it's kind of 90% financing, 10% down payment. But if you're an existing business and you want to buy another business or buy your own building, now the lender has the flexibility to waive the 10% equity injection. This means you keep your money instead of giving it to the seller, and the bank provides 100% financing. So you look at that and say, that's risky, 100% financing. Not really, because if you're buying a building for $2 million, you have to give the seller your $200,000. That means the $200,000 is not in your business checking account anymore. With 100% financing, you still buy the building. You have to qualify for cash flow, obviously, but now you keep your $200,000 for your business instead of giving it to the seller. So that's an opportunity right there. But now you have a choice. You can either put money into it, or keep it for your business and get 100% financing. That's a great new change. So how do you deal with all these changes and you know and financing? Well, here's an idea here: 100% building acquisition financing, right? Eliminate your rent, which is a great thing. Now think about Los Angeles. Some of these, and we deal with them. Some of these people have been renting their buildings for 40 years. You know, the grandfather started the business. The father had it. Now the son runs it, but they've never bought the building. Think of how much. I mean, anyway, it's like, you make your landlord rich, buy your own house or buy your own building, make yourself rich because you build up equity. So here's a purchase price of a building, $2 million, 10% down payment, $200,000 down payment. There's that guarantee fee. So like I said, the SBA charges a guarantee fee to guarantee the loan. They guarantee 75% of the loan on an SBA 7A loan, makes it easier to qualify. And then there's your loan amount. So if you just do math on that, 1,850,000, 25-year amortization. I think this is maybe a 9% interest rate or 8.5% possibly. I think it's prime plus 1.5 on this. So monthly payment, this is your principal and interest payment, $15,544. So you could do that right now, but you have to give the $200,000 to the seller. So your $200,000 is gone. Purchase price $2 million with the new 100% financing subsidy program. You keep your cash. Why give it to the seller if you don't need to? Guarantee fee a little higher because the loan amount's higher. So loan amount roughly $2,054,000, $17,255. So you're paying $1,700 more, but the other side of that coin, you have to spend $200,000 to save $1,700 a month. Some people want to save the money. Some people say, no, I'd rather have the lower payment. And nowadays, you have a choice with these new programs. And here's the basis of these 7A loan programs. So if you're buying a business, it's up to a 10-year term. That's principal and interest. So it's amortized over 10 years. If you buy business, get an SBA loan after the 120 payments, 10 years, the balance of the mortgage is zero. The loan is zero. If you buy real estate, it's all the way up to 25 years. Now, here's a great change. So this is called mixed use of proceeds. So under the 7A program, if you want to buy a business and the real estate, and as long as the building makes up at least 51% of the total purchase price, the entire loan, because you're going to add up both of them, is amortized over the entire 25 years, which is huge because it's like that would be the golden nugget, right? If you buy a business, it's 10 years. If you buy the business with the real estate, as long as the real estate makes up 51%, the payment drops dramatically because the whole thing is amortized over 25 years. More terms and fees on how that payment is calculated. So there's your rate calculation. As I mentioned, you can take a screenshot of this, take a picture. Like I said, I'm going to send everybody the PowerPoint for reference on this. So Wall Street Journal prime rate, right now that's 7.5%. As I mentioned, the maximum margin is 3%, but we're the wholesale largest SB lender. As long as you have a strong application, the cash flow is strong, everything is good, we can be as low as 1% on the margin. We've never lost. We beat competitors, believe me. So there you go. So max rate of 10.5, but it could be 8.5%, right? So that prime rate is the index. SB guarantee fees, that applies to all 7A loans right now. And third-party fees, just like when you're buying a house, you're going to have appraisals, title, escrow. The only fee that we have that the bank charges is a packaging fee of $2,500, whether the loan is $500,000 all the way up to $5 million under the 7A program. That's it. So we save up people a lot of money and really try to get them the lowest payment possible with these low rates. Eligibility for these loans. And I'm sorry that I just want to kind of go through this. I'm going to save plenty of time here for questions and answers. So just notate, what you want to answer because all this is so important.
Hey, Larry.
You have to be owner user, for building acquisitions. Can't be a felon. And there's that biggest thing now, must be a citizen or legal in the country. We do those international trade programs, but the borrowing entity has to be a United States entity. So it could be an LLC, C corporation, anything like that. And I'm going to just run down here past that here.
Jeff, if you could take a few more minutes and then we'll have some time for questions, and we have a couple other speakers that we'd like to get to at the top of the hour.
Exactly. So there's that 504 loan. Like I said, that goes up to 15 million. And we're connecting right now. we would get you pre-approved at no cost and no obligation. We would get your file into underwriting. There's a credit review, a loan commitment is issued. You'll work with a funder and closer here at the bank, and we also service all the loans. So when you work with Live Oak Bank, everything is done for you here at the bank level. No outside third parties other than the reports. For qualifying purposes, it's called the 5 C's of lending, right? So we're looking at the character, your business experience, the cash flow of the business itself, whether the one you want to buy or your existing business, and then the capital collateral conditions. All this is done with paperwork that we know and you have the answers to. What we're looking for to help you get pre-qualified for a loan is going to be the last 3 years worth of the tax returns and the year-to-date profit and loss statement, whether that's from the seller of the business you want to buy or your existing business. And if you want to get this process started, just reach out. There's my cell phone, 213-284-4565, and my email, and we'll be happy to help you.
Great, thank you so much. Oh, I loved the information, the level of detail that can definitely be useful for companies that are trying to understand what's out there for the small businesses. So I will quickly turn it over. I see Professor Ansis has some questions, so we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Doug and Sarita, for the Jeff Hildebrand presentation, and thank you, Jeff, for your presentation. Very interesting.
Thank you.
I have done work in the past with clients. I got 2 questions. The first question, I've done work in the past with clients that a small business that actually got the 7A small business loans, and they incur into real problems. So they actually had to get out of the 7A loan. The problem they got is the business, because of the requirement of collaterals, they had to include their own personal property in the loan. The problem with that is that when they decided they wanted to expand their home, they had to ask permission from the SBA because there was a change in the asset of the collaterals. And the SBA in California denied the permission to expand. So are the new rules for the S7A still as tight on collaterals?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be an action they'll have to take up with their existing lender, because the lender has to put together the paperwork, and you're exactly right. The SBA has control over that process. So, I mean, it's tough because the loan was funded based on that collateral, and you can't just release collateral and just haphazardly do that because it's a government policy. But a couple of things around that, and we do it quite often. I mean, it comes up. But you could do replacement collateral possibly. They could talk about that if they're selling and buying something else. A lot of times, I mean, we do it. We have a servicing team that does it. Is we could still take a a subordination agreement sometimes. But like I said, in the end, there hasn't been too many changes on that SB collateral release of collateral policy. But they have to just work with their existing lender, and the lender has to go through the SB to get this permission.
Right. Thank you, Jeff. And the second question, thank you very much. The second question is, we bring foreign clients to the US. And typically when they come to the US, they have their own funding, but sometimes they don't. So one of the problems that I found that, work with 40 years with clients is typically banks do not like to do business with businesses that have not been in the positive EBITDA for at least 3 years. So, but if we bring new foreign clients to the US, good business, set up a legal entity through their attorneys in Arizona, etc., what's their ability to be able to be funded? And remember, they are foreign businesses that have US authorized legal subsidiaries fully owned by the foreign company. So in that case, you have a US corporation or LLC, but you have the owners as a foreign owners. Do you have any facilities for that scenario, or you just simply don't pay attention to it?
Prior to March 20th, we had those facilities because, previously the business could have been owned 51% by a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, and then 49% could have been foreign national. So we've done a lot of this, especially down in Southern California, Florida, we lend many places. But the current administration put squash that out. So you'd have to have so just thinking about an idea on this. So you have a foreign national company coming in to buy assets, right? They want to use an SBA loan, so that they could create the new entity. They'd have to have a U.S. citizen or a green card holder own 100% of that. It could be either one. So maybe they have relatives. I don't know. I'm just thinking about this
Sure.
out loud here. So
Sure.
you have a U.S. entity as eligible, that's owned 100% by lawful permanent resident or U.S. citizen. And then they're coming in with cash. They fund that new deposit account with the cash that's sitting in this new operating account for this new United States entity, and that entity, maybe they bring in $5 million, right? So we can give them a $5 million 7A loan to that new entity, and then they're going to use the $5 million cash to buy a $10 million business or whatever the breakout is.
Yeah.
So, thinking about those chalk lines, that's how you can still do it and stay within the chalk lines. So they have to partner with somebody.
The requirement, though, is that they have to have 100% ownership of the U.S. business.
U.S. citizen or legal permanent, a lawful permanent resident. It's like verbatim out of the policy. Lawful permanent resident. That's
the real challenge, and we can talk offline. But the real challenge is that today, with increase in the export tariffs, they're basically forcing foreign companies to open up businesses here. But then now, if they do not provide some funding to U.S. business, you see
here's government talking, and then here's real life. I mean, you can't have they say, okay, you can't have it both ways, but then on the other side, okay, you can't force our hand both ways. It's like, hey, we want to come in, but by the way, as a foreign national to come in, you can't get government financing either. So it's like, what's the oxymoron? The government intelligence, right? Oxymoron.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for being here today.
And just reach out to we can have more conversation.
I see we have Anita who has a question.
Yeah, hi. Thanks so much. Everything is a moving target. I know, because I also originate SBA loans. I'm going to give you a call. But FICO scores, did those change recently? And for your bank, is there a different minimum for your express loans versus your regular loans for SBA?
So thank you, Anita. I appreciate it, and good seeing you. And reach out to me because we do have a program for cooperating with agents. So one is that it's called the Standard Operating Procedure Manual, is SOP for short, right? So it comes from the SBA. They give it to the banks. So in that manual, which is about 490 pages or so, there's no wording in there of a credit score requirement. So it says, Mr. Banker, you have to look at your normal commercial lending policies and use a similar lending policies for that, right? But they still are looking at Live Oak Bank calls it depth and breadth of credit, right? If you're trying to borrow $1 million, have you ever handled borrowing $1 million? So depth and breadth of credit. Can you borrow money and pay it back on time? So for Live Oak Bank, we're common sense underwriter. So that's one thing that goes into that credit qualifying. Sure, we pull the credit reports, but the credit score is not the main determining factor. Probably for Live Oak Bank, most important is the character. Who's operating this? Can they borrow money? Will they pay it back? When tough times come around, will they cooperate with us and say, hey, we need to work this out a little bit? But on the credit score requirement, so 7A is common sense underwriting, right? But if somebody has a 580, there's problems there, obviously. If somebody has a 580 credit score, collections, charge-offs, maybe tax liens, who knows? So they'd have to get that cleaned up. For this express loan, it's the credit score is part of it. I would say, if I throw out a number, say 650, right? If you're talking to somebody for this express loan, because there's really just computerized underwriting. Everything on the application has a little score to it. Processor puts it into the system, how long they've been in business, their credit score, their cash flow. And if, I think the internal number is like 151, which is just a combination of all these different little numbers. If it's high enough, it's approved. If it's not high, if it doesn't reach at 151, it's declined, but it's pretty quick. So we can take applications on those, and it's actually a soft credit pull. So we could do the application, run it through the system if it's questionable. And there's really no harm, no foul, and no cost of it either.
Okay, great. Before we kind of shift to the other brief speaker, are there any other comments, questions?
I think we do need to shift just so that there's
okay.
We do want to wrap up
if
it's okay.
Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate all of the detailed information, and we look forward to your emailed PowerPoint presentation, and I will also follow up with you afterward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does it make sense? Is Pelson still on the call?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Could you just say hi to everybody as well? I'm not sure everybody heard you earlier.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm from the SBA. I with the now called Office of Manufacturing and Trade. Maybe can I just make one quick remark on that?
Sure.
And then Jeff did a very, very good presentation. But I want to say one thing that about the new program called Working Capital Pilot Program. This is a line of credit up to $5 million. And we are here, our office also tasked to handle this program. So maybe we can talk about that later in the future.
Thank you, Pelson. Sarita, if you don't mind, I'd like to introduce Masami Sato and then turn it back over to you. She's visiting Orange County. She's based in Singapore. She's the founder and CEO of B1G1, and she's an amazing social entrepreneur. The work that she's doing looks fantastic, and I'm looking forward to learning more about what she's doing. Sato-san, thank you so much for joining us today. We just have a couple minutes, just if you don't mind, just maybe introducing a little bit about what your initiatives are. And we don't have a lot of time this time, but you are speaking at Global Chamber, I think on May 6th. 6th and 7th, depending. It's morning in Singapore and it's evening here in the afternoon on a great topic. And I'll put the information in the chat area. Could you do you have a moment to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Doug, and thank you for inviting me to join in. Coincidentally, I happen to be in LA, Orange County, actually, this morning. And, today we are living in an amazing time where we could connect across the globe in a way that we couldn't do before. So it's an extraordinary time. But, sometimes actually, like, being in person and connecting in real life is really something that, we cannot exchange for any online connection. But I think it's very special that we are in the same city. So yeah, and so B1G1, which is kind of unusual name, actually used to be called Buy One Give One. This is because in 2007, we imagined a world where every business action can result in a positive impact in the world. So imagine every time you have a cup of coffee, a child receives access to life-saving water, or every time you read a book and be inspired, then a tree gets planted, or underprivileged child receives access to education for a day. So this is what we imagined in 2007, 18 years ago. And since then, we have worked on building the systems, the methodology, processes to help small to medium-sized businesses across the globe to embed the act of kindness and the impact in what they do. And today, we, over the 18 years, we have worked with thousands of businesses, and they have created more than 370 million measurable acts of impact. And so that's kind of like what we do. But actually, it's interesting. I'm here today visiting, LA, and also spending the next 3 weeks in America, because when I was young, I'm 50 by the way now, but when I was young, I had the time traveling and backpacking around the world, and I spent more than like a couple of months in America, staying in the national parks and camping and visiting cities and being inspired by great monument and nature and the people of America. And we have, really interesting programs in America dealing with some social issues as well. So yeah, in my time for the next 3 weeks, I'm here and connecting connecting with some interesting business people too. So you happen to be here today, and I'm great to be here. So if you are curious, then please do take a look at the B1G1. And also, if you are happy to learn more, then please register for the upcoming sessions that I will be doing with the global chambers. And I would love to get to know you. So you are welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn and also message me as well. So thank you, Doug, for having me here today.
Sato-san, arigatou gozaimashita.
Wow, your Japanese is good.
Thank you. The event is May 6th, Sarita. It's at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And so that one is late in the evening on May 6th in Singapore, I think, where you'll be, Sato-san. And then the next one is, I think, in June, and it's got an afternoon time. But the title of this one is The Extraordinary Power of Small: How Small Actions Create Profound Global Change. And so thank you so much. A big topic. We don't have any more time to talk about it, but I need to turn it back over to Sarita. But thank you so much, Sato-san, for sharing a little today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Sorry,
you for sharing
Sarita.
that. Oh, no worries. And Emma read my mind because, yeah, so the link to the May 6th event is in the chat so that it's just easier. You could go ahead, register, and I look forward to that on May 6th. And so, well, yeah, so we can wrap up. I don't know if there are any other comments. We have about a minute. So if there are any lasting comments, questions about what we heard today, otherwise, I will just do my closing remarks.
I saw Gunjan in there earlier.
Yeah.
There he is. Gunjan, you've
yes.
always got something going on. What's going on with you, young man?
Well, I just came back from India, and as I was returning on April 1st and 2nd, I saw all the crazy news coming out of Washington. So the time between then and now has been spent figuring out the impact on business with India. And at some point, I'd love to share how these tariff changes will actually lead many American companies to start buying more from India as they are looking at alternatives from China. There's also a bilateral investment and trade treaty being negotiated between the US and India. India was slow walking it, and now they are trying to get it done as quickly as possible. So I'd love to share that at another time with the Global Chamber members. Maybe sometime in May, if you can allocate some time, it'd be lovely to talk about that. I think it's going to be a significant concern for Global Chamber members, not only in LA, but really, across the US.
Great. Thank you, Gunjan. And also just quickly, I see David, because David, I'm going to be reaching out to you shortly. So also because I know you're in the heat of the tariffs. And so I don't know if you just wanted to make a quick, very, very quick comment. So before we wrap up with what you're seeing as well with these ever-changing tariff rates.
No, absolutely. And thanks a lot, Sarita and Doug. I guess the one thing I would say is things continue to be volatile with changes. A lot of options out there to manage these tariffs, but with the constant changes, it does make it difficult for companies to predict on how to adjust their supply chain. So it's something we're definitely trying to support businesses on. But I especially wanted just to say these meetups, I really appreciate them. All the globinars that the organization does are so much more meaningful and profound for me and my business and my clients. So I really appreciate everything you guys do.
All right. Thank you so much, David. And Doug, so unless you have anything else, I am going to wrap it up.
Oh, please go ahead, Sarita. Thank you for your leadership.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining today. And thank you so much, Jeff, for that insight. I'm so glad we also had Pelson Lau on the call, but this was exceptional. just in terms of, okay, what are the resources, going through some of the changes with the policy. So this was very eye-opening as well. I was familiar with the manufacturing initiative, but I really learned a lot from today. So thank you so much. I also wanted to let you know that this will appear on the Global Chamber YouTube channel. So this is great so that we can share this information with other business owners. They can always tune in and get this information, and I will be following up with you. And so thanks again. This was a great monthly meetup, and our next monthly meetup, so watch out for details, is on May 15th, correct? The Thursday, May 15th. And so we meet up every third Thursday of the month. So mark your calendars for our May meetup, and I will see everyone then, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thanks.
And remember, change is the only constant. I love that. Change is the only constant. All
You're
right.
just like an 18-year-old. You're just like an 18-year-old, Sarita.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.